Welcome to the latest episode of Ratified, and today, lads, we are talking a very sombre topic, the end. So we were all very fortunate with our clubs and counties to have a lot of success and play at the top level of the game, but ultimately we've all had to hang up the boots, and it can be very different experiences for lots of people. So we'll chat with Michael, Mark and Aaron about finishing up and what that was like. So I suppose Mark, probably first man out. Well,
yeah,
what year did you finish up?
2016.
2016,
yeah. So my last game would have been against you in the semi-final.
All right.
And I wasn't starting that year. I was for the league. I'll never forget the National League final. It was the day of the 100 years celebration of the 1916 Easter Rising, and it was actually the day of my birthday. I was 36 on that day and playing Dublin in the final, in the National League final, and I was marking Brno. And I had a shocker. I'd say he kicked 3 or 4 points. And I was really poor. And I actually had been playing well all season. And I'll never forget the following day, there was a funeral we had to go to. But we were having a few jars the following morning, and I read the newspaper, and Tomas threw me under the bus big time.
3 out of 10.
I think he threw myself and Aidan O'Mahony under the bus. He said, Fitzmaurice has to make some hard calls. And I says, Jesus Christ. So I ring him and I said, what are you at? And but it was just the very thing that put an end to me, because that was it. I didn't get a starting look in from there on in.
Did you feel that, or did you know you were finished?
I knew it was my last year. I knew it was my last year. I thought if I could have an influence on the team, I would definitely stay put, you know. But I suppose the mileage was there, and the age was there, and then you kind of, you know, you're on the bench, you're coming into games, but you're not having the same influence. You're not, and I always felt if that was the case. And I go back to the previous year, 2015, and I was playing full back all year, and I was really happy with the football I was playing. And then before the All-Ireland semi-final against Tyrone, I hopped out of the bed in the morning, maybe 3 or 4 days before it, and I hopped my leg off the corner of the bed, and I broke my toe, and got a scan or an X-ray or whatever, broken toe. So I got an injection into the leg before the Tyrone match, and first 15 minutes I was playing, I was really happy with the way I was playing. And after 15 minutes, I rugby tackled a fellow out by the sideline. And at that time, a black card was you were gone. You were gone for the rest of the game. So the run-in I had then between the semi-final and the final, I remember I tore my hamstring 12 days out before. So my toe was still not right after that. We were in the final against Dublin. I hadn't trained for a week after it. Then I trained, and I was marking, I think it was Tom O'Sullivan, the current cornerback. Yeah. Oh, he absolutely cleaned me. He was playing the forwards then. He was centre forward. I don't know where, centre forward. But anyway, He absolutely cleaned me, and my run-in towards the final was like, it was really poor. I was hampered. And then 12 days out before the final, I tore my hamstring. And I said to Eamon, look, I'm going to pass this fitness test. And I did. I passed the fitness test the night before. But unfortunately, I didn't get on, and he had gone with his team. Dublin were better on the day anyway. But the following year I said, okay, this is it now. I'm going to really go at it this year and kind of get the most out of this year. Start the league brilliantly. Got to the National League semi-final against Roscommon, did really well. Got up the field, kicked a point. National League final, the whole thing fell apart. And as I said, I didn't get a start after that again, and was coming on in games. Came on in the semi-final against Dublin, and I just felt, you know, if I could get the ball, get up the field, and you know, try and create an attack or whatever. But you know, I didn't have any influence in that game. And coming down the bus or the train afterwards, I knew I had my decision made, and I was getting out of the train. I just told him, and I said, "Look, that's me."
There and then.
Yeah, there and then. I just said, "Look, that's me." I said, "Thanks a lot. I'd announce it in a few weeks or whatever." But
what was Eamon's response?
He was grand. He was spot on 100%. You know, he didn't want to go into it there and then, which I could totally understand. And
you were hoping he'd say, give us another year. He's like, fair play, thanks very much.
I'd say he was happy to get rid of me, but he was he was sound about it. You know, he gave me space and time and all of that, and gave him a buzz again in a few weeks' time. You know, but he was excellent about it.
Generally, know when you're Gut to your guts and your heart to your heart right after that.
Yeah, but I found it tough. I found it really hard.
The aftermath.
Oh, Jesus, really hard. I struggled. I just like missing the buzz. I was in there for 16 years, and then like.
Did you miss the playing? What the playing, the training, the lads? Obviously,
everything. The training. I remember one day I was going down to Garvey's to get some shopping, and I was passing Austin Stack Park, and geez, I saw all the cars pulling up outside and all the lads training. I said, geez, the boys are inside now training, and that hit me hard. I remember that evening, and like say watching the games the first year, but then when players that you were playing with were retiring, like it was as if it was a different team then. Do you know what I mean? Like and like it was then I was just a supporter after that, and now like I'm just going to games and I'm like a kid. I'm like you know, I have that, but definitely the first year after I really struggled. But funny enough, then teammate of mine, Conal O'Cruleach, he was asked to be the Gaelic manager, and clever out, he then asked me to be joint player manager. It was his crafty way of just getting me on board, fully on board, and so I totally embraced that, and we had a great year. We won the intermediate final, and the club went senior, and we went as far as an All-Ireland semi-final. Lost to Moy, in the semi-final. But like, so do you know what? That certainly helped. But no, you know, I knew the time was up, and like, I mean, do you know what? You see certain players, they go out on the top. For example, Seamus Moynihan went out on the top. Peter Canavan went out on the top. Dara went out on the top. Declan O'Sullivan went out on the top. It's a very hard thing to do to go out on the top. It's a very hard thing to do, like winning an All-Ireland and going. Gooch kind of did it, like he won the All-Ireland club final and then he walks, do you know. It didn't happen for me, but I wouldn't, you know, I'm happy with the decision I made. It was the right decision. It was the right decision for me. It was the right decision for Kerry. And, you know, you just like to think that somebody would take your place, and that's the thing, you know.
It's the nature of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
On that, Murph, your story's probably, well, it is very different to that, in that it was probably a surprise for people outside looking in going, you're such a totemic figure for Donegal, and arguably I would have said even at the time you were probably still their best player. And I know there's Eamon, and for me, Desi, fucking delighted to see the back of us. Donegal certainly would have wanted you to come back and play. So what was your thoughts around that, or how easy or hard a decision was that for you?
Easy or hard? A difficult decision. Everything, like retirement's a difficult one, but it was a straightforward decision. Like, you know, I think at the start of every year, I would have always anyway. You know what's required. We spoke about it a lot here today. What is required every year? You know, and there's some players, and I have no doubt, and fair and credit to them, they can go by, you know, ticking certain boxes, and manage to switch in and switch out throughout the season, get up for certain league games down. I kind of wasn't that figure as a player. I had to be on the first training in November. It was just 100 mile an hour at the same extent as it would have been for that training, getting ready for July or a gym session or whatever it was. I was just constantly all in, and that requires an energy. I always say, like, you have to bring an energy to it. Like, I had to bring an involvement and an energy to it as a player, for myself to prepare, to get Donegal to a good level, and then you were captain too, which was another thing, you know, 11 years of that. And I just knew, I'd always say, like, I can vividly remember that day in Clonus, getting beat by Armagh, in that dressing room, the right-hand side, team had gone, Hugh McFadden and Owen Bann were left in it. I'd say they knew from me, the way I was putting together the bag. I remember just saying to the two of them, I've never done it once in my life, where I says I'm going home in the car with the parents. And I just knew that was me. I just knew the energy that was going to be needed to get Donegal and come back and go again. Declan was leaving, a few things like that there. I just says, no, that's me gone. So
did you waver on that? That's the immediate aftermath. You're obviously very emotional after a championship game. You're coming out the train. Was there, by the time you announced it, had you flip-flopped? Was there any?
So that was probably then I left it, because it's such a big decision. I said to myself, like, let's fully make sure of this. Like, let's give yourself time. I remember speaking to Neil McGee, Neil Gallagher, and saying to them, and two of them were like, come on now, just pull away. And I says, no, I'm deadly serious. And I think they got the seriousness of it then after a while. And that's the only real two I'd spoken to. spoke to the parents then, spoke to Annie, and just had kind of came back in November. No, I didn't. If anything, just further strengthened the decision, what was needed. And it was a difficult time. Donegal, and there was a lot made, I suppose, of Donegal were in limbo as regards a manager at that time. And I suppose people were thinking, well, the reason you didn't come back is because there was no manager, etc. That kind of way. I can tell that I'd spoken to the boys. I'd told them I was retiring after the Armagh game, and just strengthened, Paddy, and that was me. Energy was a big part of
mental side of things,
of what
getting up for.
Yeah, when you saw Donegal playing after then, did you find it tough or?
It was tough. Last year was tough. I enjoyed getting stuck in and going back to watch games, doing the different covering of the games was brilliant, but seeing
The boys.
Group of lads struggle like that.
You
there.
did their first game, did you?
Down.
When Jim came in then, like, was there a party you said, okay, maybe?
We had good discussions about it. Like, you know, we spoke every single week for about maybe 2 months, I would say.
Yeah.
Good long, and I liked that experience because it really put me to the pin of the collar to say, do you really believe this is right or wrong? And you know, you have a loyalty to him, and you have a loyalty. Fuck it, go for it, you know. And I remember you woke up some mornings, I just said, right, you're back. Just put yourself in, get out of bed. You're back. This is what you would do. Geez, by lunchtime again, I was just like, I was
the bleed test. There's a bleed test next week.
I was there.
I'm out. Good luck.
Because you could have went back and ticked a certain box and managed your way through the year, but nah, that would have killed me. I would have been an antichrist about the place.
Yeah, I know. What about you, Aaron? What was your?
Very recently stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I suppose I just finished up with the club before Christmas, whenever it was November there. But
what age are you now, Aaron?
I was 40 in December there.
Jesus, good God.
So I was 23 years playing senior with the club. And I quit with Armagh. Him was 30. It was the 14 quarter final against yourselves. That was my last game. In terms of the club and finishing up completely physically, I'm lucky that I come through, touch wood, unscathed, like that the body still feels good, but a wee bit like you said yourself, I just know deep down the hunger wasn't there I could have forced myself to tick every box and go again, and I always felt that what can I add most and that's as in terms of a bigger picture, and I felt playing was the best way I could try and influence and help the boys in the team or the next generation. But then I just sort of felt, you know, your time's up, time to move on. And he said, my brothers were all gone, the boys who were my friends, the boys who had won, say them all out, everyone was gone. And I just remember I actually copped it last year. I went out onto the field just to warm up, and we had a new management in, and they were over talking, and then everyone else was talking, and I was just tapping the ball to myself, and I was like, the show's over here for you. You know, I realised I didn't have it, and the guy who's coming 40 and you have 3 kids and you're self-employed and you're dealing with a crowd of young boys who are in college or out doing apprenticeships, like, they don't want to know, did you get any sleep last night?
Was there a moment, you're saying, and maybe the tongue in cheek, but you're saying, obviously the league final was a moment for you, Murph, that was a Armagh game, you're saying the kind of disconnect between a new generation of players. Was there one time where you said, that's it, the light bulb moment, we're going, I can't do this anymore? Or was it more progressive over it?
It just was progressive. To be fair, the year before, I felt, because we had lost 2 county finals, and I was hell-bent on making sure we just got back winning Armagh, and then we won Armagh, and we flopped in Ulster, it didn't go well, and then we had new management come in, and a few conversations with them. And again, a bit like yourself, I just felt it an obligation. I wanted to help them to settle in. You know, there's a good group of young boys there who are keen and want to achieve. So I said we give it one. I never spoke to anyone about it, but I knew like 100% this was it. Like, even whenever we had lost to Trillick, like Matty Donnelly, he was out injured and he was standing there, and he came over, shook hands, gave him a hug, and it felt like someone just lifted a lorry off me. I was just like, thank God it's over. I did, and Mum, Dad, my wife Marianne, and the 3 kids, like, playing for my kids, playing so that my kids could see it and have memories was very special. Like, James is 9 now, Joe's 7, and wee Molly's only 3, and them coming running out onto the field, James getting a bit emotional over it, and Marianne's giving you a hug. But everyone. We actually stood around, got pictures taken, smiled, because I was like, do you know what?
It's a relief, nearly.
It was a relief. I did
That
everything
was
I could
huge
do.
for you, like, because, like, I mean, as you
magic,
say,
yeah.
23 years were crossed. But, like, what about you retiring with Armagh? Like, how significant was that? 2014, like, it's to Donegal, and like, what are your thoughts after that?
To be honest with you, at that stage, I had a very frustrating year. I tore my Achilles prior to the county final in 13. Played the county final and I knew it wasn't right, so I had to go and get it sorted. So I missed the vast majority. I was rehabbing and training by myself for nearly the whole National League. I think we played maybe Galway, the second last league game. I was back and got maybe 15, 20 minutes in it. And then we played yourselves in the Athletic Grounds and I started that game. And we went into the first round of the championship against Cavan. And I was a sub. I didn't get started in that. It was the first time now that I had ever played for
That was like
Armagh.
me, like, that was
Yeah,
where you feel you just don't have an influence in, do you know.
So what age are you when you're retired from Armagh? You're only,
I was
what,
only
30?
30.
30,
I was
like,
only
and
30,
you're
yeah.
in your phenomenal shape. You're from
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
it in,
So-
Did you
so
lose
that-
the love for, like, say, the county, as opposed to, like, you were winning with the club? You weren't winning, you could say, with Armagh at
harder
the
league
time.
with
Was
Armagh,
that a
yeah.
factor?
I definitely didn't lose the love for it. Like I was as driven and as motivated to play for Armagh as I was for Cross. Like I grew up wanting to be a Cross of Glen and an Armagh footballer. It wasn't one or the other. I wanted to achieve with both. So in terms of the commitment, like I can even look back now and I can say hand on heart, like I give absolutely everything I could. I found that year a bit frustrating. There was the melee with the band against Cavan, the famous one then. So we had 4 or 5 boys maybe got suspended off the back with a few of them defenders. So I got starting the next day out against Monaghan and we drew. Now again, I wasn't great in the game. I can remember I was in cornerback, halfback. I felt a wee bit out of place. And then the replay, I was back, dropped again, then didn't get on, we got beat. And then it was a sub against Tyrone coming on, it was a sub against Roscommon coming on, and I remember going to Grimley and Geezer and the boys and just saying, I'm begging you, please, we're playing Meath and Croke Park, like, start me, like, I want to play and I think I'm good enough and I think I'm going well enough. And the boys sort of just said, we feel we have the best team playing and you're making an impact. So I just, that's fine, you know.
Yeah.
I'd regret it forever if I didn't go and say, so at least I said it and that's it. And then just a pure bit of fortune for me and misfortune for Kieran McKeever. He ripped a muscle or a tendon in his foot or something in the week before the Meath game in training. And I got in for the Meath game here in Croke Park and played well, got 2 points and then played against yourselves. But I just sort of knew that year, I just felt, no, that was it. I found it difficult. I knew I just travelled the training by myself the whole time. I just found it hard not starting. And I don't think it was a negative influence. I wasn't happy that I wasn't starting, but whenever I went out and trained, I trained as hard as I always did. And if I was getting 15 or 20 minutes off the bench, I was trying to make as big impact as possible. And then particularly whenever I knew that bit of fortune come to get those starts, like, and I even in defeat, I really enjoyed the last game against yous because I knew you were coming up against a team who were a top team, who were really well prepared, and to play well, like we had mentioned previously, to play well against a good team, against a top player. I was marking Christy Ty. I just took great pride in stuff like that.
But isn't that the hardest thing? Like, say, you just said there that you're coming off the bench for 20 minutes. That's what I found in 2016. I was coming off the
Particularly
bench.
hard for a defender.
But,
as
like,
well.
you're trying to make a difference, an impact for 20 minutes, which is kind of near impossible
It's
unless...
it's for a forward. It's easier to make it if you get a score, you win a free. It's kind of harder as a defender. I know
Particularly
you
the
were more
style that I
attacking.
played, because you're an attacking halfback, or you're getting a score, you're trying to get on the ball and influence games.
But I go back to the 2014 game when I was dropped for the Mayo replay, and, like, I was on after 20 minutes, but that game went into extra time as well. So, like,
you get a full game.
You get a full game and you get to make an impact.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the most frustrating thing I found was that 20 minutes where it's very hard to
by
make.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Paddy?
It was an odd year. My last year was the COVID year, so it was an odd one. We'd won the 5 in a row the September before. I'd played kind of 10 or 11 years with Dublin at that point, and that was a massive culmination for that group. We'd kind of earmarked it a couple of years out. Jim then left, which was a bit of a surprise to all of us. Who Jim Style? He texted us about 10 minutes before he announced it. So it felt like Dessie Farrell then came in, and it felt like it was a new era.
Because he was in charge of the...
Dessie had managed a lot of the
Yeah.
under 21 guys, but just the you know, there was a couple of us in that bracket. Paul Flynn had retired the year before. There's myself, Bernard, Owen O'Gara, Michael Darren McCauley. With a lot of miles on the clock, and it was like, new manager, does he fancy us, or do we fancy going again? Because we spoke about the depths we went to be that successful. It was a massive challenge year on year to keep doing that. So I was kind of going into the 2020 season open. I texted Dessie Farrell and I said, "Are you around for a cup of scald to meet and we'll have a chat?" And I didn't know what he was thinking, and I went in and met Dessie and I said, "Look, new manager in, I have absolutely no qualms. If you want to tell myself, I was a sub in the 19 final, didn't get on, so it was kind of physically coming to the end anyway. I was like, if you want me to leg it and you do your thing with the younger players, that's totally fine, Dessie, no problem. And if you want me to stay on, I'll do absolutely every single thing I can to play. But I want to know what you want." And we ended up meeting for about 3 hours. He just said, 100%, I want you to stay on. I'm going to give you an opportunity to play. I think you still can. And then that gave me energy to get back. Played Monaghan in a league game here. I think it was the second or third league game. And I got a grade 3, 10 minutes into the game, grade 3 hamstring tear. I'd never torn my hamstring before in my life. I was never fast enough to do it. And I ended up missing 12 weeks. And it was breaking me arse to get back. And then COVID came in March. So the whole season was up in the air. So my body was already kind of telling me, "You're under the pump here, Paddy." And I knew I would be, because it's funny, when you start your career, you're trying to impress, you're trying to do everything, do loads of training, nearly do more to try and impress the coach. Then you get into the team, you can be a bit more settled, a bit more confident in yourself. You have a period of that. And then you get towards the end of your career and you're nearly back at the start again.
Yeah,
There's people putting in, you need to prove yourself all over again. And I was 32, body was kind of under pressure. And I just couldn't do it anymore. Physically couldn't do it. COVID came and it was actually, remember originally, it was meant, the championship was going to be played in July.
Yeah.
And then obviously no one really knew the scale of what was happening. So I got back, it was a reprieve for me, got the injury sorted, and I trained every single day. I'd say I was in the best shape I'd been, ready to try and play in July. I was top 5 in bleep test, which the lads were like, they have never been in that regard. And then it was an outbreak, and the championship was put back, and it was going to be played then in November and December. And so we took a break for a month and came back training again, and I did my hamstring again for the second time.
Same hamstring?
Same hamstring, and it was like, the body was kind of telling me I had kind of injuries with my back and hips and stuff. And then kind of got back about 2 weeks before we started. The championship was going to be run off pretty quickly, and we played a training game in-house, and I had a howler, like, being beaten out to the ball, sharpness just wasn't there, probably still wasn't right, was trying to force it. And I remember coming home from that and I was going, I'm going to be under pressure here to play it all. I knew driving home, and to be fair, Dessie was brilliant with me and he gave me the opportunity and I just couldn't take it. And then we played the first round of the championship and I wasn't in the squad, 26 like. And I remember Dessie ringing me, and Dessie was nearly more apologetic. He was going, "Listen, we're not going to bring you into the squad." And I was like, "Fuck me." You know, he was as nice as he could have been about it, but he was right. I kind of knew it myself. I couldn't do it anymore. And we went, it was hard during COVID, so the cracker, he used to arrive to training, you're not in the dressing room.
Or was that just for that game or for the...
It ended up, because it was game on game on game.
Yeah.
Dublin were playing the Leinster Championship against, they were winning the games.
And that year was knockout, wasn't it?
Yeah, there wasn't going to be a change, and I was arriving to training, and I was a sub in training games, and it was it. That's just the nature of it. Probably in hindsight, maybe should have went the year before.
You stayed to the end of that year in Dublin?
Stayed till the end of the year, and I remember the week before we played Mayo in the final again. It was Christmas week, and we had a training session the Saturday before down in DCU. As myself and Keane O'Sullivan, Keane was in the same boat. He had bad injuries, and we weren't going to be in the squad. And we'd played together since we were 13, 14, amazing times. And the team was kind of named for the week ahead, and we're going to go away and have a bit of food. And I sat outside our dressing room at DCU. I was sitting on my own, just kind of looking at the pitch. It was the last week I was going to be a Dublin player, and just remembered stuff, emotional. And Keano came over and sat beside me, just started laughing. And he goes, "This is it for both of us." Like. And it was. And we had a bit of a laugh. It was very emotional, two of us. We both knew it was the end. And sure enough, the Thursday night, our last training session, Desi kind of named, he made a little bit of a speech. He goes, "This is the team for Saturday night against Mayo. Obviously, there's a couple of people who aren't in the squad with us. So do whatever you need to do for them." And he goes, "Do those lads want to say anything?" So he couldn't speak. Keane, I was like, no. I remember getting into the car driving home from DCU, and it was bawling crying. Because you just knew that was it.
Yeah.
You know, and we're all in the same boat. You give your life to it, and I wouldn't change a thing. It was amazing, one of the most incredible experiences. But the end is hard. Like, it was hard.
What's the one thing what's the one thing you miss about it?
The group, not necessarily the training. Training was hard, but just you were saying, mentioned with your team, we were very tight as a group, and the reality, there's no beating around the bush. When you're outside, when you finish up, you are out, and they step away from that connection, the security of it, nearly the confidence we had in a group, and you just miss that. Like.
I miss match day. I miss, she's a beautiful summer's day, Fitzgerald Stadium, Killarney, playing Cork in the Munster final. The crowd afterwards, going down the town afterwards, and I just miss the.
You feel invincible,
buzz.
don't you?
Yeah,
When you're playing, it's like it's
buzz
the
of that.
best time of your life.
I'd be the same. I miss the coming around the corner into Clonus, fields packed, sun shining, Garda's court. Everyone standing out in the street, and then there's pressure that comes with that as well. Like, I don't know,
It's a part of it
every time you were sitting in the change room before them big days, you'd be going, "Why am I putting myself through this?" But as soon as you get out onto the field, it was, like I said, from growing up, that's all you ever wanted, and to be that fortunate to get that opportunity, a packed Clonus.
Yeah. But before it clicked with me, I'd say I was around 24 before I just got that confidence where I knew I could play at that level. But I remember being on a bus, as you said there, and the guard escort, and going into Croke Park, and I remember seeing these Kerry fans and they laughing, and Seamus Moynihan sitting next to me in the bus, and I just said, "Wouldn't you love to be that person there? Like, not a care in the world." and Moynihan turns to me, no. This is where he wants to be. He'd want to be on this.
It's like Jim said, that's living. On that bus, having that opportunity. But
he was right. He was right, and I found out. What do you reckon, Mike?
To me, I miss that edge. You're on the bus. It's not so much like that question goes through. You good enough? Can you prove yourself again? That even just going in with your marker and just for the next 17 minutes, just being competitive. I miss that competitive oil battle. Like I do. There's Bitsy, I'd love to try and just get yourself into as good a shape again, and you're battling for Donegal and you're battling for Kerry, and just throw your body at it. I do miss that piece, of just bit of war, go for it.
I remember there was I wasn't marking him, but 2012, and you think back in memories, but this fella, he would go to war, but
Murph?
Yeah, and there was this game anyway, and I think
he loved just the.
I gave him a bit of a. I think I gave him a bit of a poke. It was in the Hill 16 end, and he was playing full forward, and I gave him a small bit of a poke. But I was running back.
Small bit of a poke.
I was running.
You made it sound so lovely.
I was running back. And he was like this. He was orchestrating, as in our goalie was kicking the ball out, and Murph was he was going like this. And next thing, he saw me coming out and bang, and just hit me.
You were an awful man for that, Murph. You were.
I deserved it. I deserved it.
You were. Did how difficult after that? You mentioned Mark, or you mentioned Murph as well. Seeing the team playing again, was that, when do you feel you could park that and like you're now a fan, and it's similar now. Feel like a supporter, but it is hard seeing the team playing. You know,
we actually played Donegal the first round of the championship in 15 the next year in the athletic grounds, and it was absolutely wedged to the rafters, sun splitting the stones. And I remember I was just doing a wee bit of radio stuff, and I remember standing at the green with envy, like you were, because again that's what you want to be part of. Now, 15 minutes into the game, you just scored about 1-7, and and I was like, going out. But no, even at that, I genuinely was standing going, you should be out there.
Yeah,
you could be out there helping. Is there something I could have seen, I could have done? So yeah, you very much feel part of it.
But you know what goes on to them big days, like, you know, there's a wee clip in you goes, right, geez, I'd love to be there, like that day in Park Astley, like that challenge piece. But then you realise how long a minute to get there. And we've discussed it here at length. The sacrifice is not ticking boxes, colouring in that box. Like, you need to make sure that box is stamped, sealed from November, December, January, February, March, April, May, and then you're good to go. You know,
the older you are, the more you have to really put into it. And that's.
Did you go back playing with the club after that?
I did a couple of months with the club, but to be honest, when I stopped, physically I wasn't in great shape back, and like I was starting getting hamstring issues with my hips. But I have to be honest, mentally I didn't want to play. I'd kind of, and that doesn't sound great, but I'd gone soft. Genuinely, I'd no fight left in me. I'd very fortunate I'd maybe senior championship there with Bridget's when I was 15. So it was 18 years I'd played senior championship with Bridget's, 12, 13 years with Dublin, and was blessed to have been part of that team, and we'd won 7 All-Irelands in the end for me. And I wasn't hanging on to, so I was kind of happy with my decision in the end. It was hard to get to that point because it's an emotional decision. You realise it's the culmination of your 20 years or more of work. And then mentally kind of went back and was chatting with the club, and it had become mature to play and to train. Body wasn't right, it was picking up niggles. We probably weren't going that well with the club either. I remember playing a couple of games and just didn't have fight in me. Like, lads be marking in, we were a county player and you're a target for opponents and stuff like that, and like, you would have played against you guys, and I wouldn't say a word on the pitch, never get involved in.
Or was there opponents goading you, like?
Yeah, but that's normal, of course. It happens through your whole career, but never react to anything like that. And I remember my last act as a football player, we were playing a game against Scary's Harps, right? It was July 21, so the Euros were on, and I was like, I did not want to play. And good friend of mine, Kevin Bonner, used to play with Dublin, was the Bridget's senior coach, and he's like, Wolf, there's lads away here, and they need you to come and play this match. I was like, who are we playing? He's like, Scary's. Scary's is about fucking 3 hours away. It's as far as away as Dublin can get. It was a Saturday night, summer evening. My mates were going for a few pints, and I was like, Kev, like, no. And he's like, I need you to come and play. And it was still kind of COVID-y, so there was no dressing room going around. So I go, right, I'll come and play. So I drove out to Scary's. 3 hours out in the car. Okay, we're only 15 players, like, and he goes, "You're a captain, right?" I said, "Oh, lovely." So I go up. We were doing the podcast first year of the podcast with the football pod. So I go up for the toss, and the ref was like, "Paddy, Jesus, loving the show, fair play." I'm like, "Oh, great, thanks." Do the toss. 10 minutes into the game, I've got about 10 digs at this point. And little young fella, I'd say he's about 17, and I go to the ref. What's the story here? And he goes, no, play. I go, so I said to myself, I know you haven't thrown a dig on a football pitch ever. Well, the next time this little fella comes in, I'm going to mill him. So he came in late, and I just turned around and just clocked him. And 30-man brawl ensues. I got about 15 digs in the head. I'm terrible, not a great fighter. And the ref comes over. The ref comes over to me. So I'm just not in the headspace for it. And the ref's like, name. I looked at the brawl is gone around, and I looked at him and I go, F*** off. And walked off the pitch. And I swear to God, right, I take the jersey off, the bags are on the sideline, because there's no dressing rooms. I take my jersey off, grab my bag, topless, get into my car, and I am driving out of Skerry's Harps, and the row is still going on the pitch. There's a 29-man brawl on the pitch, and I'm driving home, and I was like, I'm never playing a GA match again. And I remember Kev Bonner texted me the next day, and he goes, "Don't worry, we're gonna appeal that." And I said to him, "Kev, save the legal fees there. I am not playing again." And
Very good.
That is the last ever act on a GA pitch, punching some poor young fella. And I'd say the more damage to my wrist. Got about 10 digs, head was hanging off me, and I was like, I had nothing left mentally to give.